And away we go. It is a special draft edition of the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. I'm Chad Brendel, and we got a special guest for today. We are in draft week and wanted to get the thoughts from the seventh floor of the Linder Center for how this is all playing out for the football program. So welcome in none other than the head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats, Luke Fickell. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Appreciate you having me.
This is unprecedented in UC football. It's what is the atmosphere around the lead up to this week been like so far?
Well, it's been pretty active. I think it's unique too because our guys are kind of on a little bit of a break. It's finals week and an opportunity to have the longest break of a year. Where they've got kind of a 2.5 weeks where. They've got a chance if they are done with classes, and a lot of these things are online or finals are online to get back home or to relax a little bit. So there's not as much traffic in here, but I tell you what, it's been very busy because a lot of the follow-up on these guys, people are really, as they dive in, are really more intrigued. And I think so there's been a lot of not just traffic, but a lot of communication, especially the last probably week or so.
We'll get to the main draft stuff in just a minute, but I wanted to touch on spring football before we go. How did you feel like you came out of the spring? Did you get accomplished a lot of what you wanted to get accomplished?
We did. I mean, the only thing, obviously we'd like to have had that, so to speak, spring game outside where we would go live. When we go inside, I don't really enjoy going live. So I think it's harder on the offense when you don't go live. Everybody would say, what do you mean it's harder on the defense? They can't tackle. I said, no, nobody ever tackles the quarterback. I mean, don't get me wrong. A few years ago, we did go live on the quarterback in the spring and go 168 plays and make Desmond Ritter live. Yeah, we did. But not as much. And when you can't go live, it's a little harder for those running backs to turn a 4-yard gain into a 10 or 12 or 14-yard gain, or even that pass that turns into, make a guy miss and go. So not having the ability to do that, I think, kind of hurt the offense a little bit in our big scrimmage of being able to create some momentum. But nonetheless, we worked our butts off. We got a lot of work out of those 15 practices. A lot of guys that we were counting on to see them step up did a really good job at stepping up. And the biggest thing that I need to find throughout the entire spring, not just our play hard guys, but our ability to lead from within. And that's an ongoing process when you lose a guy like Desmond Ritter and Kobe Bryant. But I think that we've got the makings for those guys that are really going to kind of take the whole team under their wing.
Everybody wants to talk about quarterback. From the practices that I was able to see, I thought it was an even race, and I thought you had to be really impressed, I thought, with Evan Prater's ability to step up to the competition. Ben's got the experience. He started a full season. But I thought both of them competed really well, and they're not going to make this summer and into Camp Higher Ground easy on you when it comes to making a decision.
No, I think we could have our coach talk now. It's an open competition, right? But as you would say, I'm glad you said it, not me. It was a really good battle, and I did see Evan take some real strides in throwing the football and the confidence in throwing the football on a consistent basis. And that's a tribute to Ben being there and Ben's ability to throw the football. And I think both of them, more than anything, need to continue to get a grasp of the entire offense. And that was so unique about what Desmond Ritter planned for such a long time that he could speak it, he could coach it, he could draw it. And, as these guys are still battling and competing, they still got to be able to take that next step to really understanding everything that we do. And then for us as coaches too, we've got to kind of condense down a little bit just because you don't have a 4-year starter that's kind of been through a lot of those things. So I think on our part as well as on their part, we kind of will have a different plan going into fall camp to give these guys a better opportunity.
All the rage right now is the transfer portal. And I'm going to tie this back around into the draft here in a second. But without getting too much into detail because of the NCAA and all the restrictions, you've made, since the end of spring football, you've made an addition to the roster through the transfer portal. In your philosophy on the transfer portal, how much is it about making the room better, just increasing that iron sharpens iron, increasing the level of competition. It's never about, like with Ben Bryant. A lot of people would say Ben Bryant didn't come here to sit the bench. Well, but that doesn't guarantee Ben Bryant the job. Ben Bryant still has to compete and win the job. You've done that again through the transfer portal now in the running back room, and a room that you were happy with from what I can tell, and now you've made that room stronger.
Yeah, I think that we have a matrix. Anytime we're going to take somebody that didn't come in to have a 4 or 5 year plan, a kid that's not coming from high school, there's a matrix to say, look, what's most important to us is our environment, our culture, our locker room. So a part of that is trying to say, okay, it's got to fit, not just a great football player. It's got to fit with the room. It's got to fit with the dynamics of the room. It's got to fit in the, maybe in the depth chart in a lot of ways. It's got to create something that we think is going to be positive, as opposed to the only positive being, well, you get a great player and he's going to go be a starter for you. So that's the way we look at it from the way we started with the grad transfers. The same thing into the transfer portal. It gives us an opportunity to do maybe some different things and balance some things out in some ways, whether that's, we've got a bunch of seniors and we got a bunch of freshmen and we got to find something in between, or, we've got a bunch of short guys and we need a longer guy, or, in the running back room in particular, you've got a bunch of, slashers and guys who are, 200-pound guys, to maybe you need a guy that's, that 220, 25 pounds. So there's some uniqueness to everything that we're doing. It's not just, hey, let's go find who's in the portal and what, that's a great player. Maybe we can bring him into our program, because great players, got to fit in a lot of ways too, because they don't become a great player for you unless they can make your program and team better.
The perfect example of that is coming off of the 2018 season and going into spring ball, you added 2 transfers. And when you added these two transfers, I got a lot of, what are they doing? They're adding a guy from UConn that's defense was bad, and they're adding a guy from Howard that we've never heard of. What does the staff see? What are they thinking? Why aren't we going after bigger fish? And we're 3 days away from Brian Cook and Darian Beavers both hearing their name selected in the NFL draft. So that's where that matrix comes in, right? That's where making sure, and it was a different world, and the transfer portal didn't quite exist yet back then, but that's that world you speak of, right?
It did exist. It might have been.
It was different.
It was different. It wasn't out there for everybody to know and to evaluate and look into seeing who was out there. It wasn't guaranteed that everybody was going to be immediately eligible. So in our mind, it hasn't changed, and we don't want it to change, because we, knock on wood, been decently successful in all of those transfer guys that we brought in. They have been a success for the most part in everything that we've done. And those guys are 2 great examples that fit right into the matrix of things. And they're a great example of what, great people around them in a good culture and a good environment with a really good football player. Guess what? He plays like a great football player. And I'm not saying Brian Cook wouldn't have been a great football player anywhere, because he's a phenomenal kid. I'm not saying Darian Beavers couldn't have got drafted from UConn. But when you add them into some of that environment, some of that culture, and they get to be around the Kobe Bryants and the Desmond Ritters, and they grow as well too. And I think all that together has given us the chance to be really successful.
Let's start at the top with this draft. What has it been like seeing the ascension of Sauce Gardner? There's talk that there's GMs that have him number 1 on their board, and most of the mock drafts have him in the top 5. And that has to be, as a coach, like, just so rewarding, not just for you, but for the kid to know this is a kind of, afterthought 150-pound kid that we thought might be good in a couple years. And he's going to be walking down there probably on Thursday night as the highest rated pick in the history of the program.
Well, first and foremost, the credit goes to him. I mean, what he has done, and belief in himself, and the confidence that he's had to put himself out there, to challenge himself. But I think, what he's also done for us and for the program is, something that I'll never forget. And I don't think, hopefully nobody forgets about, for what it's done for us. And but that combination of all that, him combined with Kobe Bryant, I think made him a better player too. Him combined with a Desmond Ritter, meaning he sees and understands and gets to be around a phenomenal leader, as much as he is a great leader too. But like all those things are so unique, and I think in his development to make him and help him continue to be what he is. And I'm not saying he wouldn't be a high draft pick, but if the team and the program, in particular the team, isn't having as much success, you know what? He doesn't go out there and play against Alabama, and they don't get to see him against the best of the best, and maybe he doesn't play against some of those other guys, and people still have some doubts and some reservations. So I think the uniqueness of everything kind of falling in line, him obviously taking charge of his own career, all those things are what you're so happy about. You're so happy for him. And I hope that we all kind of recognize how this game in particular, we all make each other better. And we're gonna see a lot of that on this weekend. I know that.
Have NFL teams been blown away with him when they've actually gotten him one-on-one and gotten to talk to him?
I think they have, and they call and they ask, is this real? Because they might have only known him a little bit. But the ones that have done their homework, the ones that have come to higher ground and watched, the ones that have come to practice it, the ones that have come to spring last year and watched the kid, because I go and watch a kid play basketball. I don't care how well he shoots the ball. I watch everything he does. I watch how he sits on the bench. I watch how does he hustle off the court when he's taken out? How does he hustle onto the court? How does he act with his teammates? Is he the first one or last one to come out of the locker room? I mean, just like those intangible things. And the guys that have done their homework and come to higher ground and done all the things they recognize the kid. Like we're trying to find something to ding the kid, but I don't think they can find one. It's just, all of his teammates love him. I mean, he competes with them. It's just hard. So some of them that haven't maybe done as much of that homework in person call and ask, like, what am I missing? There's got to be something. Is the kid really got this kind of charisma and this kind of internal confidence? And I'm like, it's not fake. It's real. He was like that when he walked in here as a 155-pound freshman to walking out of here hopefully as a top 5 pick in the NFL draft.
He's still a mod to you, though.
He is still a mod for 3 more days, maybe or so.
Yeah, and then you have to call him Sauce. Now it's his terms.
Then I will refer to him as his. I don't want to say self-proclaimed nickname, but as his nickname.
All right, Desmond. This has to be so cool to see. Every time you turn on the TV, somebody's talking about Desmond Ritter and the growth that he's made, and breaking down tape and showing why he's so NFL ready and how hard he's worked. It feel almost like a proud second dad on this kid that you went all in on and believed in, and this is what it's become because he led and put in the work and did everything that was necessary.
It is quite gratifying just to see and to watch. And I don't really know. Everybody kind of asks you, like, well, what do you think? Who's been talking? I'm like, it's as much of a guessing game for any one of us. And but deep in my heart, I truly believe on Thursday he will get called. I think people are falling in love with him. It's another one of those guys that different because they maybe had an opinion of him last year because we did obviously a lot of research on him possibly leaving and where he was projected to be, and and to where he is right now. I think that the more and more that they dive in, it's the same thing. Like, well, okay, he's not as accurate. Well, what do you mean? Like, he's not as accurate, like, into not his senior year. Like, all the things that they maybe dinged him on before, as they really evaluate, they are recognizing, wow, look how much better this kid just continues to get better in everything they do. So I think that there's a lot of those things where they know so much about him. There were so many things that originally were holding him back because they were watching him play as a freshman and sophomore, that all of a sudden now, as they really kind of do their study, they're recognizing, wow, that's what's made him a better player and made him so much more NFL ready, I think.
Alec Pierce, aren't you glad he didn't work out as a linebacker?
Well, I still think he would have been a darn good linebacker, let's just say.
He got to stay on offense.
I'm glad that he had the confidence to walk in and say, Coach, I see myself as a wide receiver. There's a lot of kids that, Coach, what do you think? Whatever you think, I'll do something to help the team. But they know deep down in their heart and in their mind, they know what they want to be and what they can be. And I'm just glad he had the confidence when asked to say, Coach, I really see myself as a wide receiver. That's where I think I'll be best. And, I wasn't going to deny that. I'm just glad he actually said that. And that obviously our wide receiver coach believed in him too, because that goes an incredibly long way that I think some people don't recognize.
And he's just another in almost all of these kids that check all the boxes: academics, athleticism, work ethic.
There's another.
Effort,
I think
teammate.
there's another one where as they dive into him, they start to realize, in their checklist of what makes a great pro, and they start to dive in, and they're like, wow, okay, maybe we had him rated, here, but then as we do all the other checklists, well, what kind of special teams value does he have? Okay, he moves to here. Well, how well does he block? Well, we're not going to take a wide receiver because he blocks well, but if he's already a third round grade and all of a sudden he blocks well, oh my goodness, he just went up to here. So he's another one of those guys, as you dive in, you just keep finding more and more things that make him a better NFL player than maybe even a college player.
And you look at the value some teams are going to get in Kobe and Beavers and Cook. And I mean, those guys, while maybe not getting the hype of those maybe three guys up in front of them, they're going to also go into situations where instantly it's going to be like a Derek Forrest or like a Jared Dokes, where the coaching staff automatically goes, wow, these guys make us better.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that a lot of these guys are diving in and seeing, okay, they've got a really good culture and a really good environment, atmosphere that breeds, teammates as well as great football players. And I think that's probably one of those things that's kind of resonated with me, that makes me as proud of anything, is how they talk about how much they can see the respect that each one of these kids have for each other, the love they have for the other guy's success. And I think in a big part of that, well, obviously they've got great character kids, but we all want that in our program and our team. And, just like we say, coming out of high school, we want guys that have been on winning programs. Not every single one of them's got to come from a state championship team, but success is bred that way. And when you have those kinds of programs, people are going to walk into your team or your NFL team and know what selfless sacrifice looks like and what it's like to be a great teammate. And, that makes you, a little bit more desirable above and beyond just your talent level.
Now, I'm running out of the time Zach has allotted me here, so I'll just give you a chance now. Stand on the table for Curtis Brooks. Everybody talks about the 8 combine guys. I've said for 2 months,
sure you have.
9. I've got the tapes. I'll pull the tapes up.
We'll pull them out.
We have said, there's a lack of 3 technique guys in this draft. And to be as explosive as Curtis, as we saw over the past couple of weeks, he started turning heads. Stand on the table for Curtis Brooks.
I've already told it. Most people, I said, if you ask me who our defensive MVP is for last year's team, it's Curtis Brooks.
When he was great, you were great.
No disrespect to Ahmad. No disrespect to Kobe. No disrespect to Maj. I just mean, obviously there's a sentiment in my heart for nose guards in particular, especially ones that maybe aren't a natural nose guard, but you ask him to play the position. He's a natural 5 technique in our defense, which is a natural 3 technique. And he played a position because, that's part of his growth. He turned into a great teammate. He was always a really good football player, but he took some of those next steps. And he is dynamic. He is very powerful. And you know what? That I don't think he gets enough credit for his intelligence. And I know we don't always talk about intelligence when it comes to D linemen. Some of us D linemen,
they're not usually smart.
Hey, you didn't. You can only say that if you're a former D lineman.
No,
I was a former D lineman. Some of us maybe don't use our minds as well as we should or as much as we should. But his ability, even early on in his career, we played him at different positions, which didn't help because he understood it. And we could make adjustments in a lot of the things that we did because of Curtis Brooks up front. He's a very intelligent kid, a very intelligent football player, which gives him a chance, even a greater chance, to be a better player because you can anticipate, you can recognize things. It doesn't just happen in the back end. The guys up front that can do that are better players as well. And he is going to be a good pro. And I think and I hope and I believe that he'll get drafted this weekend as well. And he deserves it.
How excited are you to get this experience for the first time as a head coach, to be in the green room and be there with Ahmad and kind of soak it all up?
Well, it's not exactly my cup of tea, but more than anything,
you'll love it.
More than anything, I want nothing. I don't want to be on camera. I just want to make sure that finally, when Ahmad is drafted, I can tell him thank you. I can call him by his nickname and say we appreciate all that you've done for us. We're here just to pay respects, for all that you've done for us, and we'll enjoy it. Obviously, I think it's kind of like that same thing. It's you're so happy and so proud for him as an individual, but you're so excited for all those guys around him that have been able to experience it and recognize, what it takes, and it makes us all better.
Finally, if Vrabel doesn't take a Bearcat, are you going to delete his number? Is he out?
You know what? He hasn't called me to get like the final breakdown. I know he had Majay there last week, and I'm like, is he going to call me? Is he going to be like that guy? Is he going to wait till like 30 minutes before they're going to pick somebody and call me to get like, okay, I'm going to take this guy. Give me the final results. I'm like, come on, man. You want to know something? You got to get a little earlier in this thing. So, yeah, if he doesn't have somebody for me to root for, they might not be one of my two favorite teams anymore.
All right, Coach. I know you got a million things going on this week. Thank you a million times over for coming on and talking some draft with us. And it'll be fun seeing you. I'm more excited to see Brady at that table on Thursday night. He's gonna eat that up, man. He's gonna.
He's one of the biggest reasons why we're going too, because there's a proud papa too that wants nothing more than to pay his respects and say thank you to Ahmad as well.
I have deemed it the most important weekend in the history of the program because it answers the final question. Can you make all of my dreams come true? And after this weekend, nobody can recruit against you and say, don't go there. They can't do that. You'll be able to do that now. And it's exciting.
There you go. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks. We'll talk soon. That's Luke Fickell, head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats. And he is headed to Vegas for the draft, and it's going to be an exciting weekend. This is the Holy Grail BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com.